We will now go on with a message from the first European Science Diplomacy Conference. And the first European Science Diplomacy Conference was held in Spain in 2023. And to highlight the continuity of these conferences, I'm delighted to invite the Secretary General of the Spanish Ministry of Science, Innovation and Universities, Dr. Eva Ortega-Paíno. Please, go ahead.
Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. It is a great honor to join you today at this second European Conference on Science Diplomacy here in Copenhagen. I would like to sincerely thank the organizers for bringing us together once again to continue this essential conversation on the role of science in shaping our shared future. In 2023, under the Spanish presidency of the Council of the European Union, Spain promoted the first European Conference on Science Diplomacy with a clear conviction that science for policy, science diplomacy must be firmly anchored in the European political agenda. This initiative was conceived from the outset as a collective European effort, developed in close coordination with European institutions and member states, and placed at the service of a shared European vision. That first conference brought together governments, international organizations, academia, civil society, and the private sector to reflect on what a European science diplomacy framework should look like. Today, that framework is a reality. The result of a collective effort involving more than 100 experts, providing Europe with a clear roadmap to navigate an increasingly complex global landscape. Barely 2 years have passed since that first meeting, yet the conditions that made science diplomacy so necessary then are now even more acute now. The rapid development of artificial intelligence, the acceleration of disruptive technologies, and the growing interdependence between scientific progress, economic competitiveness, and security have profoundly transformed the international arena. International relations are no longer defined solely by geography, treaties, or trade flows. They are increasingly shaped by the capacity to generate, manage, and govern knowledge and data. Science and technology are no longer just tools of diplomacy. They are the very environment in which global power is negotiated. From fiber optic cables beneath the oceans to satellites orbiting our planet, technology has become a cornerstone of the international order. But its significance goes even farther. Science is actively shaping the world to come, redefining our relationship with the environment, with society, and even with ourselves. In this context, Spain has long been convinced that European science diplomacy must be endowed with purpose, with operational tools, and with a strong coordination among member states. For more than a decade, clearly I'm one of those that has been working for more than a decade, Spain has cultivated a network-based approach to science diplomacy, placing also civil society, the research community, and knowledge-based institutions at the center. Through the different entities of our research and innovation ecosystem, we have worked to strengthen the links between scientists, policymakers, and society at large. Spain has also actively contributed to the European debate through its participation in key initiatives such as Science for Diplomacy for Science, S4D4C, its engagement in the EU Science Diplomacy Alliance, and the involvement of Spanish experts in shaping the European Science Diplomacy Framework. The discussions held in Madrid clearly demonstrated that science diplomacy is no longer optional. In a fragmented and multipolar world, Europe must act strategically, recognizing that science and technology increasingly shape the power relations, global commons, and security dynamics. Participants stressed the need for a framework that builds on Europe's strong legacy, rethinks science diplomacy as both soft and hard power, and embraces the principle of being as open as possible, but as close as necessary. One of the most important outcomes of that first conference was the recognition of a growing European community of science, diplomacy, practice, and expertise, a community that requires spaces for dialogue between scientific and diplomatic cultures, and stronger synergies between research, innovation, and foreign policy instruments. In this regard, I would like to highlight a key factor that has become increasingly central to Spain's approach to science diplomacy and that can offer valuable lessons at the European level: our scientific diaspora. Spanish researchers working abroad constitute a strategic asset for science diplomacy. They are bridges between ecosystem, cultures, and institutions. They contribute to excellence in host countries while maintaining strong ties with Spain and with Europe. They embody in practice the very essence of science diplomacy: cooperation, trust, shared knowledge, and long-term relationships. Spain has challenged this potential through RAICEX, the network of associations of Spanish researchers and scientists abroad. RAICEX, with its 22 associations around the world, has become a unique platform that connects scientific talent with diplomatic action, providing expertise, local knowledge, and international networks that are invaluable for foreign policies, science advice, and international cooperation. In fact, just 2 days ago, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of our joint science diplomacy meetings involving the Ministry of Science, Innovation and Universities, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the network of Association RAICES. These 10 years of shared work are a clear example of how sustained collaboration between science, diplomacy, and the scientific diaspora can translate into concrete operational science diplomacy. Through RAICES and these joint initiatives, the scientific diaspora contributes to science for policy, supports embassies and diplomatic missions, facilitates international partnerships, and strengthens Europe's presence in global scientific debates. This experience demonstrates that science diplomacy is not only conducted by institutions, but also by people, by scientists who act and trusted interlocutors and informal ambassadors of European values, scientific excellence, and openness. The European Science Diplomacy Framework rightly underlines the importance of fostering science for policy and foresight ecosystems. Once again, Spain is actively engaged in these efforts, driven by the convictions that scientific knowledge leads to better public policies and that robust science policy interfaces strengthen our democracies. Spain understands science diplomacy as a practical policy tool that connects domestic priorities with international actions. As reflected in the discussions of the 10th Science Diplomacy meeting, we are working to consolidate science diplomacy as an operational interface between research, policymaking, and foreign action. This includes strengthening interministerial coordination, supporting communities of practice, reinforcing science advice mechanisms, and promoting the role of scientific expertise in diplomatic contexts. Crucially, Spain conceives science diplomacy not only as an external policy instrument, but also as a way to improve governance, resilience, and strategic autonomy for Spain, but also for Europe as a whole. The legacy of Madrid lives on in the current European process and in the second conference. The outcomes of the first conference directly fed into the work of the science diplomacy working groups and into the European science diplomacy framework. The fact that we are meeting here today in Copenhagen confirms that science diplomacy has become a shared European priority, extending well beyond a single Council presidency. We are also at a decisive moment in the redesign of our joint European research programs. This makes it an ideal time to embed science diplomacy more firmly across European policies, in research and innovation, in foreign affairs, in security, in development cooperation, and in our engagement with global partners. Europe has a unique responsibility. We are a global scientific power, but we are also a political project built on cooperation, multilateralism, and shared values. European science diplomacy must reflect that identity, strategic, values-driven, and oriented towards the long term. In a polarized and fragmented world, Europe must speak with confidence, but also with coherence. Science diplomacy offers us a powerful means to do so, to build trust where politics alone cannot, to keep channels of dialogue open in times of tension, and to contribute to global solutions for challenges that no country can address alone. If Europe wants to shape the future rather than simply react to it, science diplomacy must be part of our strategic toolbox, not as an abstract concept, but a concrete, operational, and collective endeavor. I very much look forward to these 2 days of discussion and to continuing to work together to ensure that European science diplomacy rises to the challenges and the responsibilities of our time. Thank you very much for everything. Let's keep doing this that we can all do together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Eva Ortega-Paíno.